Hey everybody, what's up? In today's match, I play a really tough opponent. He's aggressive where he needs to be. He floats me a little bit. He adapts to my style and tries to implement a counter strategy. So this is a sort of opponent that I think some of the members wanted to see. I mean, it's good doing videos against rulers because, as it's been mentioned, those are the guys you play most of the time. But when you play a guy like this, I mean, you really have to bring out your A game. And I was really lucky just to stay in the match against this guy, really. Alright, so we start off Jack 6 suited, and he limps. Normally I'd take a stab at this flop. I'm not really sure why I didn't. I just checked it. And now that the King of Hearts has come on the turn, I don't really think I can successfully bet out here. I haven't bet on the flop. He'll call if he's got any heart, pretty much, and just not a great flop for me to try and represent, I feel, at this stage. I'm happy to let sort of one hand go through without studying at it. And turns out that my Jack high is good enough, which is pretty lucky. Alright, limping with Jack 2. He hasn't been aggressive pre-flop, so I'll play 100% of my hands. This is the perfect flop for me to take a stab at, I think. Especially when he's checked, and I take that one down in position. He raises, and Ace 5 I wouldn't normally call a raise, but I just got a feeling that, you know, I want to test this guy out. So 3x straight away, and he's chatting and folding. Turns out, as you'll see in the chat later on, that this guy's seen some of my videos, so he's probably got an edge against me. He knows how I play. But I know now that he has a fold button, which is good to know. And later in the match, I'll be using that to my advantage. Alright, limp. And he raises my limp. I'm going to call on Jack 9 suited. That normally plays pretty well. I hit top pair. He checks. I should probably bet out, but I choose just to see one more street, see what happens. And a pretty ugly king comes. Definitely should bet now, try and protect my hand, but I don't really want to get check raised. The king is a hand that he can represent, or a card that he can represent, and I am a bit worried about getting check raised. I'd rather play a small pot, and as long as no overcards come, I'm probably good here. And then the horrific ace comes on the river, and I've completely butchered this hand. What a mess I've made, letting two overcards come. I had top pair, I was almost certainly good, and now I've completely destroyed the hand. And he bets 80. I just can't call this. So, what horrible play, really. I wish I'd bet on the flop. Alright, here we've got our middle pair. And take that pot, limping on 2-6. I'll play anything as long as he'll let me. I've hit middle pair and get called. I'm not really putting him on the ace. And here I'm going to try and sort of two-barrel. I don't see much point in checking. And when I get called, not much chance that I'm good, I think. And I'm out-kicked, which kind of sucks, but that's the way it goes. I mean, possibly he had a 4 there, or something like 2-5 or something if he's a bit loose. So when I say not much chance I'm good, I mean, obviously I can't beat any middle pair. Alright, ace 3. He limps, and here I've got a gut shot. I could probably bet it, but you know, it's one of those flops where I might get a tight guy to fold, but pretty much no one else. And after I check, he fires 40 into it, and I've missed my opportunity. And in position, take a stab here, get called, which is not nice. I've now got no draw. I could think about firing the second barrel, but I know that he has checked middle pair before, He could be as strong as having a 10 here, and there's no way I'm getting to fold that. Could also have quite a few draws. That would be one reason for me to bet. But I'm just going to check it down. And now the king comes. Seeing I haven't bet the turn, it's pretty hard for me to represent three of a kind here. I'm never going to get him to fold a 10. Might also get looked up on good threes. So the only thing I'm pushing off here is a draw. And unfortunately he had a draw. So the barrel on the river would have worked, but never mind. That's kind of hindsight. I mean, it was a pretty marginal situation. Alright, bet with my gut shot. Get called. Check. Maybe I should have tried to represent. And no showdown value. I know a lot of guys would bluff here. And I check it down. And really, I'm not sure that he had anything there. That 60 on the river, I mean, I'm just looking weak. He might be valuing his 6 or something. Alright, now we've got something decent. Top 2 pair. And he's checked. I'm not really going to slow play it because it's a top 2 pair. It's a bit drawy. If it was something that wasn't quite so connected, I might slow play this. And unfortunately he folds. And folds to my king 9. And I return the favour. Not very often that I fold, as you can see, but I just decided to there. And here he mentions that he's seen my videos, which makes me think, oh no, why do I bother? There goes $50 because he's seen me play, he knows my style. Alright. And not a great flop for my ace jack. Fire out, and he folds. And he's bet on the river there. Not convinced, but he is the sort of guy that's been checking some pretty decent hands like middle pair, as I said before, and I've shown weakness, so could be betting for value. Here I try a little raise on my 8-4 and 120 into the 180 pot, sort of thing which I hope has missed his range, his calling range, and he folds, and that helps. Fire it at the paired board as I always do, pick it up. So he's acting reasonably tight. And yep, he's definitely tightened up a little bit. Another paired board, this time I decide to check, not really sure why. And he fires on the turn. So it seems to me that when I show weakness, he's taking the pots off me. So I'll use that to my advantage later on. Alright, bet on my draw, hit my king, and I'm betting 90 here. If he's got a 3, I want him to pay when in fact he probably doesn't have any outs. If he's got a couple of hearts, the same sort of thing, but he folds. Limping on my 10-7 and betting, so I'm in position, and he folds. So in position my betting's working quite well. Out of position, not brilliantly, but not terribly, and we pick up another little pot. Try another raise and get 3 bet. That didn't work too well. So we'll fold that. And I raise again. I'd love it if he 3 bets me this time, or whatever it is, 4 bets, I'm not sure at this stage. But no. And limping my ace-9, just seeing if maybe he wants to make a 3 bet. And he flat calls me. The 4's an absolutely horrible card. And I bet 40 here to try and get a feel where I am in the hand. I mean, I don't want to be calling down 160 on the river. I'd rather him declare how strong he is right now. And I very much doubt he's bluffing there. If he is, it's a really good bluff, but I don't think so. And he's 3x pre-flop, so he's varying his aggression level. And, sometimes he's passive, sometimes he's aggressive. Probably should have stabbed at that, but didn't. and I probably wouldn't have got into fold anyway, so save myself some chips. And he raises me 3x. As I say, aggression levels increasing at times and decreasing at other times. He limps. Horrible flop. And not getting any better. If I bet here, no way I'm getting him to fold. Obviously, a 7, a 3, a diamond. Not much value in this for me. And that's just an awful river. And his king's good. Probably even an 8 I might have got a call out of with 2 overs and a gut shot, who knows. King 3 and paired board, obviously I'm betting. He calls and he's been pretty tight. I don't think I can push him off an 8 here. And even on the river, I think I'll be getting looked up. So I just check it down and he has the 8, which I expected him to have when he called. And now he's seen a couple of times me taking stabs, which is not that good for my image, I guess. So take a stab here, take it down, fold my 5-2, and being a little bit passive pre-flop. And here I raise my king queen pre, and he folds. So my pre-flop raising is a mixture of good cards and bad cards. It's more of a frequency thing here. And earlier in the match, I 3-bet him with ace-5, but I'm not going to try that trick again. Once I was lucky to get away with it once, really. And he's raising pre. I can't really get any inroads. He's a little bit passive at times, aggressive at other times. And it's really hard to sort of get an advantage playing this guy. Raise my jack-8 and take it down pre. The blinds are big, and although I'm generally passive pre-flop, when the blinds are bigger I tend to get a little bit more aggressive. And not a great flop. I could try and represent the king on the turn, but basically check it down, and that 40 must be for value in position, so there's no way I can call that. And another raise, just trying to sort of keep my stack reasonably high and stay fairly aggressive. He limps and being a little bit passive, but you know, he's got no obvious faults. He's a little bit tight, this guy. And now min raise and middle pair, that's good. I bet and get called. That's not good, and the 4 is a really horrible card for me. I mean, I'd much rather see an 8 there. And if he's floating me, I'm going to try and push him off right now. And once he calls and that king comes, I'm thinking, ugh, very little chance that I'm good here. Pretty much the only thing I'm doing here is beating a draw if he had some sort of straight or flush draw. And, you know, I'm probably splitting a lot of the 8s unless he's got ace-8. He checks and I check it down, and luckily he had the flush draw and also an inside sort of a gut shot, and I faded all of those outs, thank goodness. That was a very handy pot. And he raises 3x immediately after. Not sure if he's perhaps a little bit upset at missing all his outs. I mean, he did have more outs than the gay Mardi Gras, and luckily I faded the lot. Alright, min raising to control him, and that works pretty well. Once again he 3x's against an opponent who's widely 3-betting you. Then the 3x at 25.50 is a bit of a leak, but I'm not 3-betting him much, so he's getting away with it. And my min raise is having the same effect as his 3x mainly. He's folding a lot to it. Now he's called. Not the greatest flop. I'm going to take one stab at it, and unless I hit something nice like an 8, I'll give up. And fortunately he folds. That was another handy pot. Alright, 6-2. I could have a stab at this. I have been pretty passive pre-flop in this match. Post-flop in this match, really. And not sure why. And he's being aggressive. Raise on 9-10, pick it up. So as I said, the min raise is working fine, and I'd rather spend 100 than sort of 150 to pick up the blinds, because the one time I get caught, it obviously costs me a lot more. Here we pick up middle pair, and I get called. The turn is a beautiful 3. I really wanted to make him pay in case he's on some sort of draw, so I bet 150 into the 200 pot, get called, and the river's a 5, completing the flush draw. Not a great card, but not a terrible card. I mean, I'd much rather see that possibly than, say, the 8 of hearts, which is complete flush and straight draws, or the jack or something. I bet 200 and get min raised, and as you can see in chat, I pretty much know that he's pricing me in and that he's hit on the river, but the odds are so good I just have to call. And of course he's got the flush. I knew he had the flush, but for 200 into what is it, a 1100 pot, I pretty much have to call. And that's a bit of a dilemma, because I know that he's raising because he's just hit the nuts, or the relative nuts, but on the other hand, he's given me such good odds I can't really afford to avoid, or I can't really afford to ignore the pot odds. So I call knowing that I'm right to do so mathematically, but psychologically I know that I'm pretty much dead when I make that call. But I made it, and now I'm down to 800. And I fold my jack 7. Things are not going so well. 2-3, firing out. Need to pick up that pot. I can't afford to check and have him bet, because I can't call a bet. So I'd rather be the aggressor. And I've been noticing with my students lately, especially students that haven't done the fundamentals course, that one of the big leaks that I see is not betting out and protecting your low and middle pairs. Because if you do check and your opponent bets, it's very hard for you to call in this situation, for example. So, and the other thing is, if he doesn't bet, then you've just given him a free card to hit his overcards. So I'd much rather bet out in this situation than be passive. Folding my jack 8. He raises 3x. Not looking so good here. I limp, hoping to get a raise out of him, and pick up top pair here. He checks. I'm checking for deceptive value, and he bets on the turn, which obviously I'm calling a top pair. And once he checks the river, I'm pretty convinced he doesn't have the jack, so now I'm going to try and take some value in case he has an 8. I bet 200, and he looks me up on an ace for the worst kicker. That was a very nice pot to pick up. Alright, here we hit top pair, and I check for deceptive value. He bets 100, and from his bet sizing, I think that it's more likely he's trying to pick this pot up than actually has a genuine hand. And I shove over the top and get a fold and pick up another nice pot. Alright, limping queen 7 and betting with my open-ended straight draw, get called. The king's a horrible card. Well, it doesn't help me, put it that way. I could have a crack, but I just check it down, and luckily he has a worse 7. Not sure if I should have tried to bet the turn there and represent the king. Quite possibly would have been a good play, but I didn't make it, so that's that. He limps. I've got 4-4. Not a great flop, and I get I get raised on my bet. Obviously I can't really afford to call this. And this is one of the key hands of the match. He bets 120 here. I'm pretty much thinking he's probably got a 9. Last time he bet out pot, he got shoved on. I don't think he'd be doing it again without a decent hand. I mean, he'll recognize that pattern, and he's ready to be shoved on this time. So I'm not going to try and push him off. 5 on the turn. That's a very interesting card. He checks to me, and I'm going to try and represent that 5 right now by betting 180. I get flat called, which pretty much confirms in my mind he's on the 9, and the Jack of Clubs on the river. Obviously I was hoping to bink my 3 or my 8 for the straight. Jack of Clubs doesn't help me. He checks, and now there's an awful lot of chips in the pot. Obviously I've bet on the turn trying to represent a 5, and I'm not going to give up on the river. The question is, how much should I bet? And as I've always said in these situations, if you're going to bluff, at least bluff big and make it hard to get called. So I bet 540 into the 720 pot, which is a mixture between sort of not over betting, which might look suspicious, but putting a really intimidating size bet in there. And if he calls this, not much chance my 7 high is winning. I'd say pretty much 0 chance. So I'm down to 350 chips. And he's chatting, got your 5, and luckily he believes me and folds. Thank goodness. So back in the match. And I think that bluff was plausible because I represented the 5 on the turn and then on the river. And of course I called him for his flop bet, so it's quite plausible that I have a 5 there. So I don't think it was a bad bluff at all. I don't think he's always going to be reading that as a misdraw, especially as the club draw came on the river. So I think that was actually a pretty well timed and executed bluff. Alright, we've got the lead for the first time in forever. And he checks. I also check. And now I've got an open and straight draw, but I'm not going to bet it in case I get check raised. I've already shown weakness. Queen's lovely, and I just try for a little bit of value, but he folds. And he's limping. I bet because he's limped, less chance that he'll have any of these cards. And I pick up the pot. And at last we're getting a little bit of a lead here. Here I probably should have bet. I mean, that was, I don't know why I didn't. I normally would try and take a stab at this board with a gut shot. And now I do it on the turn, trying to represent the 8. And luckily he didn't have anything and I picked it up. Not the best of timing, but I made up for it with a larger bet on the turn. Limping, we've got the draw. Perhaps I should bet, but he is capable of raising me. I just call one, and now that he bets 240, obviously I can't make the same play that I made last time of trying to push him off. And last time he checked, whereas this time he doesn't. Looks like he's trying to protect his hand. I think he's reading me for a draw, so I'll just give it up. Look for a better spot. And I'm in raise with my Jack Queen, then he folds. That's sort of pretty standard. Limping, my 6-2. Probably should have stabbed. Now I do stab. And now the 10 comes. Can't imagine what I'm beating, but I simply bet because I'm not really sure what else to do, and I don't want him sort of getting confident and bluffing me. And luckily he folds. Alright, King 3, raising and picking up the pot. Getting a little bit more aggressive at these higher blinds. Taking a stab at the paired board. I get called. And I don't really read him for strength here. When he sort of flat calls me and bets 120, but obviously he's stronger than I am. And he may well have had something good. Fold my 4-2. Here he 3x's me, and I'd love to have something that I could sort of shove on him and punish him, but I don't. And I try a min raise. Not the best of flops. I mean, it's a good flop for me to represent the king, but I would have liked something that had, say, queens and 8s in it. And I bet half pot. Not sure if that's a right size bet. He raises me and obviously can't go anywhere here. Here he min raises and I flat. Not sure. I mean, I'm sure that the aggressive turbo guys would be shoving there. But I just decided to flat. I like to play post flop mostly. He checks. I bet 80 on the turn and get check raised. And he's really putting me under the hammer here. I have to pretty much decide now, is my ace good? Is he just making a play? He seems to be capable of making a play. I flatten in case I pick up a magic 2 or 5. And when I don't, I just put a blocking bet on the river, and he's folded. So he was just making a play there, which is pretty interesting. And now I see that he's capable of that sort of thing. Min raise to pick up the blinds on ace 4. He min raises and I call, and I've got bottom pair. I probably should fire out here. This is just an awful check. I'm letting his overcards get there. I should be firing 240 right here and right now. And king of clubs on the river. I bet a weak blocking bet and he comes over the top. Honestly, I played that just horribly. I mean, I know $2 players that would play better than that, so never mind. At least it didn't cost me too much. Limping on my ace 9 and checking. Take a stab and he check raises me again. So I'm pretty sure he's adapted to my stabbing by choosing to check raise me on occasion, and I have a little plan where hopefully I'll be able to punish him for that. His aggression levels increased, 3x pre-flop. I try to pick up the blinds, get called, and this time instead of betting 160 I bet 240, which he flats, and yuck. Nothing nice coming. Check it down, and I think I walked into a hand there, which is a little bit unfortunate, so I'll have to give that one up. And this is basically a spite raise because I got beaten on the last hand, but as he's limped, fairly high chance of success, and it works. Try another one, and that works, getting some chips back. And now I try it for the third time when he limps. He's seen me do it twice. I'm hoping to get a shove or some action here, but he folds, unfortunately. Alright, he limps. I've got Jack 9, and here's my chance to make a play at him. I know he's been check raising me, so first of all I'm going to show weakness, give him a chance to take a stab at the pot. He doesn't. Now I bet on the turn, and he takes the bait. Check raising. I'm pretty confident my two pair is good here. The question is, should I shove, or should I sort of re-raise him? I try for the shove in case he's got a random ace, because he'll probably call, and he folds. Alright, here he bets 160. That looks really suspicious, but I let it go. I mean, I honestly don't think he's got it. I probably should have raised that straight away. And he's limping. The blinds are now 50, 100. And here I make another play. I check. He bets 200, and when I see that 200, it reminds me of the last hand where he bet 200 into the 5-5-3 hand. I'm sure he's just trying to buy pots with a pot size bet. And I try the min raise, which looks strong, and he folds, so that confirms my read. That was a pretty nice play in my opinion. I sound pretty conceited when I say that, don't I? Oops. Alright, so 50, 100, got him out chipped almost 2-1. He starts shoving, so I have to fold. And ace queen, I wish to shove this time, but no, he folds. Beautiful timing. And I limp, stab at this and pick it up. That's very useful. 200 chips there. And just trading folds. I limp and he won't let me. That's a pretty good play from him. Aggression at the right time. I would try limping if I caught a monster and having him shove at the wrong time. This raise to 300 looks strong to me. Could be wrong, but I haven't got anything that I can fight back with anyway. Queen 10, I try a min raise, and he shoves, and I'm sure there's a lot of turbo players that would just be groaning at my min raise fold here, but sorry guys, I'm not prepared to shove or sort of commit all my chips there, so I make the huge error of min raising folding there. He shoves, and he's been shoving quite a lot, but I want a little bit better than ace 4. I shove my ace 3 simply as a defense against him because he's been shoving so much. And more shoving. This is looking like the end of a turbo match. I shove my ace 4, he folds. He shoves, I fold. And I fold my king 6, that's not good enough to shove. And once again king 6, and he shoves, obviously 3-4, not the best hand, and I'm a little bit worried about getting sort of ground down now. If he shoves here, I'm considering calling, but he folds. Ace 8, I might limp and call a shove, that would be one way to play it, but I'd rather just shove. I mean, ace 8 is probably ahead of his shoving range if I limp, but it's not really the most robust hand. I mean, if it was something like Jack-Jack, I'd try the limp and get him to shove. But ace 8, I think I'd just rather shove and put the pressure on him. And folding my Jack 4. King 9, he folds, so he's avoided my half-decent hands. 2-5, I'm folding, not doing anything fancy. He limps, I might have shoved there, but I get a pretty nice flop with an ace on it. And I check. And I check again, trying to encourage him to bet. I flat call it, and then just check the river to see if he wants to do anything silly. He might also have a 9, so I've got to be a bit careful here. And he checks it down on king 2. So he's capable of taking stabs and check raising me on air, which makes him a pretty dangerous opponent. Ace 2 suited, shove that. He folds. Ace queen, and I really wish he would shove, but he folds. Nice timing, sir. Here I've got king 7, and I've got a reasonable lead. I shove, get called by a better hand, but I have 2 live cards. And I pick up a 7 on the flop, which is beautiful. A blank turn, I've just got to dodge his 6 outs on the river, and luckily I get away with it. So that's the end of the match, and obviously I sucked out on him at the end, which is a bit ordinary, but king 7 suited when I had 1800 at 50, 100. It's not a terrible shove. And he hadn't called any of my other shoves, so I was a bit unlucky that he called, and I was lucky to win, but I did have 2 live cards. And as you can see, this guy was quite a tricky opponent, capable of sort of check raising me as a bluff, capable of stabbing at pots, and not too many errors, maybe a little bit tight, but quite difficult to deal with. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and until the next one, I hope you run good.